You don't have to go to the mountains to find sacred space, because sacred space is right where you are. I had an experience many years ago. I went to a place called Chaco Canyon, about 15 miles south of here in the desert of New Mexico. And it's a sacred place on the land. There's ancient plazas and finely built rock dwellings. And so I went this one spring equinox, and it was cold and windy. It was so windy I couldn't keep a fire. And finally, I just went walking, and I went down into a riverbed, and I knelt, and I could almost hear children laughing and adults talking, and I knew I was in a place that was still inhabited. And I had come as a visitor, and I came in peace, and I honored the place where I knelt, and I honored the beings that were still there. And I had a beautiful visit the next day with the sun coming up and experiencing the spring equinox. But when I came home, my inner voice said to me, "You didn't have to go all that way." And my question was, "What do you mean?" And it said, "You didn't have to go all that way to find sacred space, because sacred space is right where you are. It's where you stand. The ground you stand upon is sacred because of who you are, and because of what you bring, and because of those who have gone before you and have blessed it with their innocence and their peace. Remember that." And I did. I never forgot that sacred space is right where you and I stand because of who we are. And what is sacred? Sacred is what we hold most dear to our hearts, what we value most deeply. And what's sacred is sacred because we say so. It's not sacred just because someone else told us it was sacred, or because history or ancient texts tell us it's sacred. It's what's sacred in our lives is sacred because we say so. And how you create sacred space is, first of all, recognizing what's sacred is sacred right where you are, and you can carve out a place in your home, a place to sit, or a room where you can make a special area just for you. Create an altar and place upon that altar things that are of sentimental value, that are mementos, photos, crystals, stones, wedding rings from your grandparents, a rosary, things like that. But we can make our entire homes sacred in that way, having altars everywhere, or little arrangements, whether it's just flowers and a couple pieces on a table overlaid with a cloth. But it's the intention that we bring, and that's probably the most important aspect of what's sacred, is we bring a deeply felt intention to the space. Just like churches are sacred because of the energy with which they are invested. The altar and the place where the sermon is delivered, these are sacred within a church. But our homes can be that way. And the places within our homes that we set aside and sanctify can be that way. When I was in practice as a chiropractor, I was by then very aware of that my office was a sacred container. And I would bless my office every morning before patients started coming in. And I had altars everywhere in the office. The uninitiated might look and think, well, that's a beautiful little arrangement of knickknacks. But I knew for me it was as an altar space. So that wherever I was around my workspace working with a patient, wherever my eyes landed, it landed on an intentional arrangement, an altar. And it would automatically reorient me to my purpose and my relationship with the person that was in front of me. And that created sacred relationship with all of my people. Men and women, moms, dads, children, with everyone. What happens to a person when they begin to sit in sacred space regularly, when you begin to occupy what are for you sacred spaces on a regular basis? It causes an internal shift. You become more aware. Not only is the place where you sit sacred, but everywhere you go is sacred. You bring that with you, and you share that with the people in your environment. Because really, everything is sacred. There's no place where the sacred isn't. Yet, by virtue of our intention, by virtue of our capacity to be focused and present, that's what lends the sacredness to anywhere that we are. It comes from within us, and it's extended from without, from within to without. And it changes you because you become more present, more aware, more loving, more accepting, more willing to engage consciously with whoever's with you. So when you create sacred space in your life, you create a place where the truth can come alive for you. I hope that's helpful. Stay close to the fire. I'll see you next time. Adios.